Eggplants are the most underrated vegetable in home gardens, yet they can outproduce tomatoes when grown correctly. Most gardeners fail because they treat eggplants like tomatoes, but there's a specific method that's transforming harvests everywhere. The secret lies in understanding what eggplants actually need to thrive. Here's where most gardeners go wrong, and it's costing them their entire harvest. You plant your eggplant seedlings at the same time as your tomatoes, thinking they're similar enough. The reality? Eggplants need soil temperatures of at least 65 degrees Fahrenheit to thrive, while tomatoes are perfectly happy at 55 degrees. Why does this temperature difference matter so much? Cold soil shocks eggplant roots into survival mode instead of growth mode. The plants become stunted, weak, and vulnerable to every pest that comes along. Those tiny holes you see on eggplant leaves from flea beetles, they can actually kill a cold-stressed seedling, but a warm, established plant will shrug off the same damage. What you need to understand is that air temperature and soil temperature are completely different things. Even when your nighttime air temperatures hit 55 degrees, your soil might still be sitting at a chilly 50 degrees or lower. This is why waiting those extra 2 to 4 weeks after planting tomatoes makes all the difference. How do you get this timing right? First, invest in a soil thermometer and check your garden beds at a depth of 4 inches. Don't rely on weather apps or air temperature readings. Second, start your eggplant seeds at the same time as tomatoes, but keep them in their containers longer. This extra time allows them to develop stronger root systems and larger plants that can handle transplant shock. The transformation is remarkable. Instead of struggling seedlings that barely survive, you get robust plants that take off immediately after transplanting. Larger plants also have a much better chance against flea beetles and other early season pests. Think of it as giving your eggplants a head start instead of a handicap. Here's the practical approach that works every time. When you're ready to transplant tomatoes, give your eggplants another month in their containers. Use this time to gradually acclimate them to outdoor conditions during warm days. Check your soil temperature religiously and only transplant when you get consistent readings of 65 degrees or higher. The difference between cold-planted and properly timed eggplants is night and day. Cold-planted seedlings often take weeks just to recover from transplant shock, if they survive at all. Meanwhile, properly timed transplants immediately begin vigorous growth and start flowering within weeks. Your patience will be rewarded with plants that explode into growth instead of sulking in cold soil. Most gardeners let their eggplants grow wild, thinking more branches equals more fruit. This couldn't be further from the truth. Strategic pruning actually increases your harvest while improving fruit quality, and it's simpler than you think. Why does pruning work so well with eggplants? An unpruned plant wastes energy on dozens of weak branches that produce small, bitter fruit. When you focus the plant's energy on just 3 to 4 main stems, each one becomes a powerhouse that produces larger, tastier eggplants. Think of it like having fewer children, but being able to provide better for each one. What you're looking for is the original main stem plus 2 to 3 additional branches. These extra branches can be suckers that grow from the main stem or natural splits, where the plant divides on its own. The key is identifying these productive branches early and removing everything else. How do you execute this pruning strategy? Start when your plant reaches about 12 inches tall, identify your main stem, then look for the strongest suckers or natural splits. These will become your keeper branches. Everything else gets removed with clean pruning shears. Don't worry about being too aggressive initially. The real magic happens with ongoing maintenance throughout the growing season. Every week or two, walk through your eggplants and remove new suckers that try to grow. This isn't a one-and-done technique. Consistent pruning keeps the plant's energy focused where you want it. Here's what surprised me most about this method. Not only do you get bigger eggplants, but they're also less bitter and more flavorful. When a plant isn't stressed trying to support too many branches, it can put more energy into developing the sugars and compounds that make eggplants actually taste good. The visual difference is striking too. A properly pruned eggplant looks clean and organized, with strong branches that can easily support heavy fruit. Compare this to an unpruned plant that looks like a tangled mess and constantly needs staking because weak branches keep breaking under the weight of fruit. Research actually backs this up. Studies show that pruned eggplants not only produce more fruit per plant, but the individual fruits are larger, and contain higher levels of beneficial compounds. The concentrated energy flow creates better quality produce across the board. Start this pruning routine early in the season, and you'll be amazed at how much more productive your eggplants become. It's one of those techniques where less really is more, and the results speak for themselves. Watering eggplants like you water tomatoes is a recipe for disaster. You might keep the plants alive, but you'll end up with small, bitter fruit that nobody wants to eat. The secret lies in understanding eggplants have a completely different relationship with water during their fruiting phase. Why do eggplants become bitter when underwatered? During fruit development, the plant pulls moisture from wherever it can find it. When soil moisture is insufficient, the plant actually concentrates bitter compounds in the fruit as a survival mechanism. It's essentially telling you the growing conditions aren't ideal for reproduction. What most gardeners don't realize is that eggplants need dramatically more water once they start flowering and setting fruit. Early in the season, when plants are small and weather is cool, they might need frequent but light watering. But once those flowers start bulging out into tiny fruits, everything changes. Now you're dealing with a plant that's working over time to develop large, water-heavy fruits. How do you adjust your watering strategy? Start by checking soil moisture at least 4 inches deep, not just at the surface. If it's dry down there, your eggplants are stressed, even if the top looks moist. Deep, infrequent watering encourages roots to grow down instead of staying shallow. Here's the game-changing approach that transformed my harvests. I actually restrict water slightly early in the season to encourage deep root development. Once flowering begins, I dramatically increase watering frequency and volume. Think of it as training the roots to go deep, then rewarding them with consistent moisture when the plant needs it most. Container growing offers a huge advantage here. Fabric grow bags breathe naturally and provide excellent drainage, making it almost impossible to overwater while ensuring consistent moisture. The key is using containers large enough that they don't dry out between waterings. The difference in fruit quality is remarkable. Properly watered eggplants produce fruits that are creamy, mild, and actually enjoyable to eat. Underwatered eggplants give you bitter disappointments that make you wonder why anyone grows them at all. Here's a practical tip that works perfectly. When you can stick your finger 4 inches into the soil and it feels dry, it's time for a deep watering session. Soak the soil thoroughly until water runs out the bottom of containers or penetrates at least 8 inches deep in garden beds. Monitor your plants during the fruiting phase especially carefully. If leaves start wilting during the heat of the day, even when soil feels moist, increase your watering immediately. Your taste buds will thank you for the extra attention. Have you decided what type of eggplant you're planning to try? Let me know in the comments below. Here's where even experienced gardeners mess up badly. You wait for your eggplants to tell you when they're ready like tomatoes do, but eggplants don't work that way. They'll keep growing and growing until they're bitter and inedible, long before showing obvious signs of being overripe. Why is timing so critical with eggplants? Unlike tomatoes that change colour or soften when ready, eggplants stay the same colour and firmness until it's too late. By the time they look obviously overripe, the flesh has already developed large, crunchy seeds and bitter compounds that make them unpalatable. You're essentially working with a narrow window of perfect ripeness. What you need to watch for are subtle changes in skin quality and firmness. A perfectly ripe eggplant has glossy, almost mirror-like skin that reflects light beautifully. The moment that shine starts to fade and the skin looks matte or dull, you've missed your window. The fruit will taste bitter no matter how you prepare it. How do you test for perfect ripeness? Use the gentle press test. A ripe eggplant should feel firm but have just a slight give when you press it gently with your thumb. Too hard means it's underripe. Too soft means it's overripe. Think of it like testing an avocado but with much less give. The size factor often confuses people. Bigger isn't necessarily better with eggplants. Many varieties taste best when harvested smaller than their maximum size. Don't wait for that massive eggplant you see in grocery stores. Harvest when the skin is at peak glossiness, regardless of size. Here's the confirmation method that never fails. Cut one open and examine the interior. Perfect eggplant flesh should be creamy white with barely visible soft seeds. If you see large seed cavities filled with brown, crunchy seeds, you waited too long. Use this as your reference point for future harvests from the same plant. Never try to harvest eggplants by hand. Those stems are incredibly tough, almost woody. You'll end up with a handful of prickles and a broken plant stem. Always use clean pruning shears and cut the stem about an inch above the fruit. This clean cut helps prevent disease and keeps the plant producing. Here's something most people don't know. Eggplants can actually be stored at room temperature for several days after harvest, if picked at the right time. Overripe ones start deteriorating immediately, but perfectly timed harvests maintain their quality longer and taste better in every recipe. The difference between perfectly timed and poorly timed harvest is the difference between loving eggplants and wondering why anyone grows them. Beautiful heirloom varieties look amazing in seed catalogues, but they're often the worst choice for beginning eggplant growers. Those gorgeous Casper whites and Turkish orange varieties that photograph so well, they're typically finicky, disease-prone and quick to turn bitter. Starting with the wrong variety sets you up for failure before you even plant. Why do ornamental varieties perform so poorly? Many heirloom eggplants were developed for specific climates and growing conditions that might be completely different from your garden. They often lack the disease resistance and heat tolerance that modern breeding has improved. Beautiful doesn't always mean practical or productive. What you want instead are varieties specifically bred for reliable production and stress tolerance. Pingtung Long from Taiwan consistently outperforms flashier varieties because it was developed to thrive in challenging conditions. This variety produces abundantly, tastes excellent, and forgives the mistakes that kill more temperamental plants. How do you choose varieties that actually work? Look for descriptors like disease-resistant, heat-tolerant, and productive. These aren't marketing fluff. They're practical indicators of varieties that will succeed in real garden conditions. Millionaire, another Japanese variety, matures quickly and produces heavily even in shorter growing seasons. The productivity difference between reliable and ornamental varieties is staggering. While you might get 2 or 3 fruits from a finicky heirloom, proven varieties like Pingtung can produce dozens of eggplants from a single plant. That's the difference between a disappointing experiment and a harvest that actually feeds your family. Consider your cooking style when selecting varieties too. Long, slender Asian varieties like Pingtung are perfect for stir-fries and curries. They slice into uniform rounds that cook evenly and have fewer seeds than bulky varieties. If you prefer grilling or stuffing, choose varieties specifically bred for those applications. Climate matching is crucial for success. In cooler regions, early varieties like Millionaire give you the best chance of a full harvest before frost. In hot climates, heat-tolerant varieties prevent stress-related problems that lead to bitter fruit. Here's the strategy that works every time. Start with one proven, productive variety your first year. Learn how eggplants behave in your specific garden conditions. Once you've mastered the basics and enjoyed actual success, then experiment with more unusual varieties. Build your confidence with winners before trying the challenging ones. Success breeds success in gardening. Choose varieties that want to succeed in your garden, and you'll develop the skills and enthusiasm to eventually grow anything you want. These 5 methods completely transform eggplant, growing from frustrating to rewarding. Temperature timing, strategic pruning, deep watering, perfect harvest timing, and smart variety selection work together to create the abundant harvests you've been dreaming of. Ready to master more garden secrets that actually work? Check out this next video I've picked just for you.